as we walk through life, we don't even realize the preconceived notions that we have of things, and like basic, what do I want to say? Like experiences, right? The same thing that would cause, like, I've been jumped by black people, right? So the same thing that would cause me, not because I'm prejudiced, but the same thing that would cause me to move across the street because the experience I had the last time that happened wasn't very good. So it's not that I'm prejudiced. I'm just being cautious. Does that make sense? And I think that, and I didn't mean to use like black people. I mean, it could have been anything. It could be Mexican. It can be, it could be right. Any race. It could be any race of culture of people, but you derive.
But it could be white people too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to disrupt that because that is our fear culture. So
I was speaking to my own personal experience. All right. What's up? Thanks for stopping by the show. This is Sean Dustin. I'm the host. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It's good to have you with us. Today is September 11th. Wow, I didn't even realize today was September 11th. If you're from the camp that I'm from, then you would. There's a lot of 9/11 truth stuff happening today. I know that from some of the people that I follow. There's the World Trade, the Building 7. They're doing something today on that. I know. I think Del Bigtree. No, not Del Bigtree. I don't know. Jason Burmis, I believe. And so, that was kind of a crazy. That was a crazy day. And it's been feeling kind of, cause after that event, I mean, everything was really eerie. I was a cable installer, when that happened. And actually when the first building hit, or when the first plane hit, I was getting ready. I was living in, Phoenix, Arizona. I was working for a cable company or a contractor for Cox Cable. And, I was at a startup down there, and, so I was watching the news, drinking my coffee, getting ready for work, and all of a sudden they're showing pictures of the first tower as right after it happened, and then right as I'm watching, boom, live it showed the second plane just barreling into the second building, and so it was like, I mean, you just have that feeling like, whoa, what did I just see? And then, of course, I go into work and everybody's kind of like, hey, did you see what's going on? And everyone's sort of talking about it. And, you've got that eerie feeling that's in the air, like, where you're just getting chills down you get their spine and you know what I mean? Just kind of randomly when you think about something. And then I had to go into people's homes and install their cable, and of course, they were come on, hurry up, because they want to know what's going on. And it was so eerie. And when I went to lunch, I stopped in at a restaurant, and literally it was super quiet, and all the TVs were on, and everybody was just focused on them. I couldn't, like trying to explain how that felt. It was almost like a consciousness, you know what I mean? And, for people in the United States, it was like a, I don't know, man. Like, what do they call that? When the consciousness of everybody, around that. Cause I mean, I'm sure it didn't just, just because it affected us, on the physically and, happening to us. I mean, I'm sure it affected, the rest of the world too. Cause nobody wants to see 3,000 people die. I mean, come on. I mean, unless you're just a horrible person or a eugenicist, or, you know, I guess that's what Bill Gates is, right? That's what they say. Anyways, so if you, that's what today is. And if you want to support the show, you can go to the Patreon. I'm currently, I keep talking about currently loading it up. Yeah, I need to load it up with content still. It's there. If you want to shoot me a tip, which is probably what would be the best thing to do right now, for what I'm doing, if you're getting something out of it, you can hit me at PayPal, NorCal Drone Services at yahoo.com, and shoot me a tip. Otherwise, subscribe, rate, review on your favorite podcast platform. I'm also on YouTube, and I live stream these usually on Wednesdays. So it's either going to be on Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, or Friday evening. So this week it's going to be this evening because I didn't get a chance to get to them Wednesday or Thursday. So until I can nail it down and be consistent with one day, this is just how I'm rolling with it. Other than that, not a whole lot more to talk about. Haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to any of the stuff in the news lately. I just been trying to deal with my injury and you know, going and getting the procedures done and trying to navigate where I'm going to go next. I put on some weight, and so now I need to try and focus on getting into a better routine. This episode, I don't know how I feel about this episode. And I think that's probably part of the reason why I didn't put this out on Wednesday, is because I was processing how I felt about it. Because I don't know if I could have acted better. I don't know if, because as I was watching back the video, I could see mannerisms in my body language that, like, you probably as a viewer wouldn't know what I was thinking at the time, or that wasn't a, like, kind of a passive aggressive like thing, because I know myself, and I know what, like, I knew the situation, and I could see, like, the expressions on my face and the movements in my body, and I was like, dude, you have to work on that, because that could be like, if I was in the presence of another person, that could be construed as aggressive or like intimidating. And I thought that I had worked on that. I've done a lot of work on that, actually, and I could just see it coming out. And so I don't know. I guess it's just my, like, having to come to terms with the fact that, dude, you need some more work there. And, I guess that just being hard to swallow, especially since I'm so, like, introverted and, like, always trying to work on myself, or at least see my fault in a situation and how I could have done something differently. The subject, I mean, we plainly say in the beginning that we're going to stay away from any of these social subjects and stuff like that, right? It is extremely difficult to navigate away from that, as you can clearly see in this conversation. And we try to get away from it at least 2 or 3 times, and it just keeps going back to it. But it is a good conversation. I don't, like, I have a different perspective than Lori had on it. But I get where she's coming from with the fragility and the covert racism and what that actually is. And I mean, there is she's right. And whoever has been talking about it is right. But I think I was trying to explain it from my point of view and through my experiences, and how there's another side of the population that is, has bad experiences with different groups. And that's what, and it's not racism. And I don't think it's racism. It's just being cautious. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not gonna put this episode out, even if it does put me in a bad light ish. I don't think it puts me in a super bad light, but I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how I feel about it. And, so maybe you should tell me how you feel about it. If you listen to it, if, you think I'm wrong in how I'm perceiving something, in this conversation, let me know. Shoot me an email, nowhere to go but up now at gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on any of my social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Facebook page. I'm on all of them pretty much. And you can find all that in the show notes and the link tree. Those are direct links to all of the places where you can get a hold of me or the show. So if you listen to this and you're like, God, Sean, I think she's right. I think you're looking at it wrong. Let me know. I'm always, like I said, I'm not married to anything, man. I'm always seeking to be a better person every day, through every, conversation and connection I have with people. If I'm acting badly, then, I want to change that. I don't want to be that guy. So, without further ado, let's get to the show. All right, what's up? This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. Today is the monthly variety portion of this podcast with the lovely co-host, Lori Rising. Today we are not going to be talking about any stuff that has to do with social issues and all of the things that we've all been bombarded with in the last, I don't know what, year or forever maybe. But yeah, I think we're going to take a break from that kind of stuff and focus more on personal stuff, in our lives and what's going on. And I'm having some issues as far as transitioning and stuff, but let's do one thing at a time here. Let me make a couple announcements first. As always, you can subscribe, rate, review on your favorite podcast platform. I am currently on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, all the major platforms, iHeartRadio, YouTube. What else? Yeah, that. And if you want to rate, review, all that stuff, you can do that as well. Patreon, I have a Patreon page up. It's getting loaded up currently with content. So you can subscribe there and support the show that way. Or you can just, honestly, the best way to probably do it is, if you don't want to be locked down with a subscription, is just shoot me a tip. You know what I mean? If you like what I'm doing, tip me. Shoot me a PayPal. NorCal Drone Services at yahoo.com. That's my PayPal account. Just shoot me a tip there if you want. Otherwise, just enjoy what I'm doing. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. What's up, Lori?
Hey, I wasn't sure what you were talking about with shoot me a tip. I was like, is it like a message? No, I got it.
Well, I mean, it seems like that seems more reasonable, for what we're doing and at our level. Because we're not drawing a serious amount of people. At least I'm not. As far as downloads and everything else, I'm getting a lot of views on my live streams. When it comes to the stuff that I'm covering about, what is that? The stuff in Texas. Remember we talked about that. I'm getting a lot of views on stuff that I'm doing for that, but I don't know if I'm at the point where people find value in what I'm doing to actually want to pay for it. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Sure.
And if you do like what I'm doing and you do want to like help fund it, you know, because it does cost money, and everything that I'm doing, you know, I'm adding subscriptions like every week, it seems, that are helping me to streamline what I'm doing. Like the last one I just added was a app called Later, and it allows you to do all of your social media posting scheduled, and you can do it from your computer. So it's like the problem I was having with Instagram is that I can't do it on the phone. I need my glasses and my fingers are too big, and it's such a pain in the ass. I'm a copy paste kind of guy, right? Especially when you do your description for your show, your tags and all that other stuff. You do it one time. You don't want to have to keep doing it for every place that you have to put it at, right? So copying and pasting is like my preferred method, because it keeps me lazy. Sorry. Let's just keep it real. I'm a lazy guy. All right. And so,
well, I wouldn't call it lazy. I would call it streamlined
or
like
efficient.
Yeah, it's efficient. It's streamlined. I think a lot of people don't realize the behind the scenes work that goes into this. And I'm telling you, I've never worked this hard in my life for basically no pay. Even when I started my practice, my therapeutic practice, 20 years ago, it was word of mouth. And, because it was local and I'm face to face with people, I wasn't trying to go on such a bigger scale. Mm-hmm. And this is a whole different world. And so I really think there's a few key pieces to this. And if you don't want to burn out, you need to streamline things. Mm-hmm. Like it's essential, because I started burning out because I wasn't doing any of that in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I use, I don't know. Are you a Mac person?
No,
Apple?
no, I'm a
okay.
PC.
Yeah. Cause everything's connected. So I use the notes, because the notes it's like a program that goes from my computer to my phone. So I type everything into my computer for my Instagram posts, and then it just pops up on my phone. I copy it there, paste it in, because, even there's so much to learn in this business, but even with hashtags, you don't want to have the same hashtags every time. And believe me, I'm not getting the results that I would love to see with all of the research and work that I've put into this. But I also know that this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a long, it's really about patience. And that's why I love hearing from the people that are really successful and have large followings, and are doing really passionate, beautiful, authentic things. It took them years. Like I'm seeing average 4 years, maybe 5 years to really get to that place. So I'm not even a year in with this platform, and I'm constantly learning. Like it's like I'm in school all the time. Yeah. In my free time, I am listening to podcasts. I'm reading, I'm signing up for courses. I'm trying to really put the work in so that it becomes, and that's how you build a business. You want to see results a lot faster. I get that. Like, I think we both do, because you put so much effort into this, especially with a podcast. If you're doing it all yourself, I mean, the amount of time is unbelievable. If you book the guests, you create the interview, you research the guests, you edit it, you record it, you know what I mean? Yeah. I can't even begin to describe the amount of work that goes into it. But that's a long answer I think it's really, I wouldn't, words are important, and never label that as lazy, label it as efficient and streamlined.
But I mean, maybe I'm just mostly too honest about, what I mean, about how I feel about myself. And that, and not to get away from that, but I've been noticing that as well, lately too. I'm really paying attention to how I speak about myself. You know what I mean? And
yes.
And refer to myself, because a lot of it's like, God damn, you talk about yourself really negatively. And that can only be because that's how I feel about myself. You know what I mean? And so
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Well, that's hard to look at, man. It's a hard thing to look at, because you think like I have to really start doing this a lot more too, because I make a lot of generalized blanket statements that kind of just go out when I'm really talking about myself. And so I really need to start instead of, you know what I mean, throwing it out there, because if I'm throwing it out there, I'm not taking ownership of it. And if I'm not taking ownership of it, then that's more of me not identifying and owning it, right? And being like, oh, well, no, this is you. It's not them. It's you. Stop wording shit in a way that makes it seem like it's everybody else and not you. Even though you know that, but it's like, dude, subconscious is a fucking bitch. God, because it's like, all right, hi.
I mean, we're in the Great Awakening, so you're waking up. Like, that's what's happening everywhere. That's what's happening to our universe, to our planet, to everything that's happening. That's why I said I've been so busy, because it's not only this entire business that I am working on night and day. I'm also working on myself internally and moving through these major shifts that we're going through. I know that, we're pretty different in this respect, but we're moving out of the age of Pisces and moving into the age of Aquarius, and that is a huge shift of moving out of like a place of belief and moving into a place of knowing. So the fact that, you are becoming introspective and you're going inside like this, there's so many reasons that we are kind of cleaning up inside because of our external world. So everything that's happening, like everything's changing, everything's shifting, things that we're getting shaken from the ground up, and even looking at our own mortality, and then looking at like, where is this coming from? What's happening with the government? Things are getting revealed. I know we're not going to get into this, but that's the age of knowing, right? And so it's not only knowing, starting to know ourselves, and we're actually really recognizing this as systems get revealed, which this is happening in droves, right? As that happens, we actually start realizing the subconscious that you're talking about, this unconscious programming that has happened throughout our lives. Before we even knew language, we were getting programmed by the culture around us. And that culture is now getting exposed, right? And not only that, but we're actually shifting into moving more into a balance of masculine and feminine instead of such a dominance of masculine. And it was more of a wounded masculine. So, we've been in this place of competition, scarcity, fear, right? So that's that subconscious that really seeps in, even if our consciousness knows better. And now we're moving more into receiving, feeling, actually processing our emotions and being with them and making huge shifts for ourselves. And that even goes along the theme of like, wait a second, am I living the life that I want to live? Right? With all of these huge uprisings and upheavals, is this, the rat race, or, am I living in a city that I don't want to be in, or in this job? You know what I mean? So there's so many things that are really getting into the depth of who we are as humans, who we are as people, as souls, who we are as communities. And I love it. And it is a shit ton of work. Like, this is work every day. So that's what you're doing. I like to talk and I get into it, but I'm so proud of you, because you're opening up to what's literally happening on the planet. And the more that we do that, the more things are really going to change.
Well, I mean, I was thinking, there was a post that I saw the other day, and it like, because sometimes there's some things that you look at and you just kind of breeze over, you think about it, but then there's some things that are like, wait a minute, let me really think about that. There's something to this, and it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. And then I really like kind of dove into it, and I feel like we're as people, we're an overlay, right? And our operating system, which is our subconscious, that's gathering information all the time, just pulling information, experiences, pulling, just grabbing stuff. Or maybe it's the overlay that's grabbing the stuff. It's the operating system that's placing it where it needs to go. You know what I mean? And experiences go here, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. But as we walk through life, we don't even realize the preconceived notions that we have of things, and like basic, what do I want to say? Like experiences, right? The same thing that would cause, like, I've been jumped by black people, right? So the same thing that would cause me, not because I'm prejudiced, but the same thing that would cause me to move across the street because the experience I had the last time that happened wasn't very good, right? So it's not that I'm prejudiced. I'm just being cautious, right? Does that make sense? And I think that, and I didn't mean to use like black people. I mean, it could have been anything. It could be Mexican. It can be, it could be right. Any race. It could be any race of culture of people, but you derive.
It could be white people too.
Yeah, so yeah.
I want to disrupt that because that is our fear culture. So
I was speaking to my own personal experience. All right. Having that happen to me, and that's why I have those reactions. So, but take it away from me and you can just put it to anything, right? In any culture, any color. If you have a bad experience with them, you know what I mean? If you got jumped by a white guy and you were a black guy, or if you were a white guy and got jumped by a white guy, or you know what I mean? Anything that is going to tailor your perception of that. And now that's an experience. It's been cataloged. It's been marked. It's been put into your subconscious. That's an experience I have. So now when I see that same scenario kind of creeping up again, or possibly could happen again, it's just human nature to, threat. This is what I need to do to get away from that threat. That's how I process things. And maybe it's right. Maybe it's wrong. I'm more of a preventative type of person. I would rather prevent a confrontation than have to like go head right into it, because of my experiences of heading right into confrontation ends badly. You know what I mean? For me.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many things to say about that, and I didn't even really get myself prepared to talk about this, but that's internalized racism, and that's a fear culture. It's not human nature. Like, I want to be very clear about that. And this is what's happening right now.
No. I don't agree with that though. I don't think that that's racism. I don't, because I'm not a racist person. All right.
We are all racist people because of our subconscious and because of literally we were raised in racism. Like, you don't. It has been all around us, from everything that we have consumed, from everything that's happened in the way that we get housing, in the way that our media portrays.
That's systemic stuff. That's systemic. No.
I don't.
No, I get what you're saying. Everything has been set up, all right, to keep a certain class of people down. So if you telescope out, all right, and I didn't want to get into this, and I wish I
don't either. I'm really not in the space to be in this conversation today, because I really don't think we're going to come to the good place with this, because literally that we are all racist. Even Black people can have internalized racism because of the culture that we have been raised in. So I cannot, Have you ever had, let me just ask you one question. Have you ever had a bad experience, that shapes your, I don't know. That's called trauma.
Okay.
I mean, we're living in a fear and scarcity culture that creates an environment filled with trauma. And so that's why I'm saying that's not actually human nature. Human nature, we at our core are love. That's our core. But we have actually been raised in this fear, scarcity, and competition culture that has created a whole different internalized environment than what we are in human nature. So that's our culture. That's racism. That's everything that we have been pumped full of that you're talking about with the subconscious. And so then when we go through trauma, we attach those fears that we have learned throughout our entire lives. We attach those fears to them. So I really think what you're talking about at the core is trauma, and then we're attaching racism to it.
So basically what you're trying to tell me is that instead of saying that, okay, I experienced trauma from a group of black people, I should say I experienced trauma from a group of humans?
I'm not saying you should say anything. What I'm saying is human nature is love.
So how do
what
you...
I'm also saying is we have been raised in a very traumatized culture that has a lot of violence and fear. And you can be jumped by anyone of any race.
Mhm.
So then let's say you're jumped by people of every single race. So
I've been jumped by Mexicans too. And if I...
Okay, I can't. I can't be in this conversation today. Quite honestly, I'm not in this space at all. I don't think that we're going to come to a place of understanding in this.
I don't understand where you're coming from. That's where I think we come from two different places and two different experiences, and I think that I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing it from your view. Because
okay, have you done any research or reading in any of the anti-racism books that are out now? Like to learn about our culture and about the very, very deep racism that we have always been in this culture.
I've read plenty of stuff on the 13th. I've watched that. That has a lot to do with it. The Jim Crow laws, everything else that came out of the Civil War. All right. Where they, and yes, it is not, you would have to be stupid and blind to realize that black people and brown people have been oppressed from the Civil War on. When slavery ended, it didn't end for them. We all know that. Well, maybe not all of us know that, but the woke people know that. The people that have researched things, we understand that. We know that. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you have an experience and somebody inflicts trauma on you. If a woman is raped by a man, okay, now she has a problem and she's fearful of all men, right? It doesn't matter.
Of course.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
Trauma.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
It's trauma.
So maybe I should say that, okay, well, I'm afraid of all males that in a group, if I see them coming my way, I'm going to move across the street because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the possibility of maybe a problem happening, especially, young kids, a group of young kids. Come on, man. Do you know what teenagers are like?
But you don't see groups? That's racism, that you're attaching a trauma that you had to an entire group of people.
If it was perpetrated by a similar group of people, a similar looking group of people,
that's like that is the definition of racism.
Okay, so how would you deal with it then? What would you do in my situation if you've been jumped by Mexicans in prison and black people in prison?
I've had plenty of trauma in my life.
Was the trauma, did it have to do with a group of people? Have you ever been jumped by a group of people?
I'm not going to talk about my trauma. I honestly, I'm not going here today. I'm going, you know what I said? I've told you how busy I am and everything I have going on, and I cannot be in this conversation. I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
Okay.
And I just don't think, I think that we both have expressed our feelings on the topic, and I don't think that we're ever going to come to a place of agreement on it. So I think we can agree to disagree on how we're feeling about this topic.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm cool with that because I'm not racist. I know that I'm not.
I'll say right now that I have racism in me because of the internalized racism that I have taken in from a culture that has surrounded me with it. That's the subconscious and the unconscious that I have constantly. So I am working on anti-racism all the time in my life. And I have never, ever been overtly racist. But even just the fact that I grew up believing I don't see color, I love everyone, right? I thought that was being not racist. that does not help. That is not helpful, because we actually have to see color to change racism in this country. So that's the thing. I think the first step is actually getting over the stigma of being like defensive about it. Like, I'm not racist, right? So that's a major issue in this entire racial issue and racial justice that we're trying to make big change in, because it's been going on since the inception of this country. And so I think when we can actually say, you know what, I'm a product of a culture that has raised me in these belief systems, and now I'm going to actively educate myself and get information and knowledge and figure out actions to be anti-racist.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I do. I agree with you to the extent that if you're somebody who hasn't experienced trauma from another group, another tribe, I guess you would say, if we were back in the old days, you know what I mean, where we were all tribal. But if nobody's ever experienced that, I can totally get where you're coming from. All right. When the things that we see, the constant stuff in the media that is villainizing colored people of color, melatonin skin, they're villainized. They are, and I get that even though you think that you're a good person, I think that I'm a good person, that we are all affected from being exposed to that. And it was done on purpose. All right. I agree with that. But I think there's also another side of that. All right. And the side of that is the side that I'm on, which is I have experienced trauma, like serious trauma, from other groups of people, other tribes. You know what I mean? From police to, and regardless of criminal elements, you know what I mean? But I mean, that shapes how you interact with the world around you. Do you not agree with that?
Trauma absolutely can shape the way that you interact with the world, but also it's important to do trauma work. And it's important to actually work through that to be a balanced human and not take on racist tendencies because of a trauma that you've experienced. Like, the trauma gets stuck in your body, and it's a really difficult place to be. And if we don't do trauma work, and if we don't actually engage in whatever therapies that we can find that resonate with us to work with that, then we're going to keep perpetuating really difficult patterns from that trauma and from that wound.
So look how difficult it is for you and I to talk about this. All right. And we're woke-ish. I don't like to say woke. I mean, we're awake. I think woke has a completely different meaning now, but, we're both awake to what's happening. All right. You and I can agree to disagree pretty much. You know what I mean? I don't take offense to anything that you say to me or any views that you have. You know what I mean? We're people, right? You're you, I'm me. We think about what we think about. I know that I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I am a flawed individual. All right. But because I know that about myself, I'm constantly seeking to, am I looking at this right? Is it me or is it them? You know what I mean? I'm always trying to analyze the situation with myself and how I'm looking at things, because I know I'm flawed, because I know that I have looked at things in a racist way before. Because remember, I come from prison, and what do you think prison teaches you? Segregation. And what do you have to do to survive in prison most of the time? You have to segregate. You can't just go there and decide, well, I'm just going to do this by myself and not get involved with anybody else. It doesn't work that way. I tried that, and that's one of the reasons why I got beat up. All right. And so it was, it was different, and it was hard to decompress from that when I came back, because even though I was only gone for 3 years, I experienced some serious trauma there. And, when I came back, it was really difficult for me to unplug from those feelings. You know what I mean? It was like, I didn't know what to do with them. You know what I mean? And then coming back into society and trying to reintegrate and all that stuff. So, I mean, it took I would say about a good year for me to finally like, okay, no, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not you against everybody else. It's not you against the blacks, you against the Mexicans, you against whatever. All right. And that's what life is like in prison. You wouldn't know. You've never been there. And what you see in TV and movies, it's not really what it is. So, I mean, there's something that I'm speaking to that you don't understand, and only people that have been there will understand what I'm talking about. You probably did your life the right way, you know, aside from, you know, the traumas that you experienced in it. But I mean, I'm sure you thought you were doing it the right way as a, you know, the people that grow up and dot the I's and cross the T's, go to school, go to college, you know what I mean? Everything that we're taught that we're supposed to do to be in this capitalistic society, right? I didn't do that. I went completely the opposite direction. So my experience is way different than yours. And you know what I mean? And the fact that I'm even half as awake from everything that I've been through is, to me, is amazing. That I can still, having experienced that hate in my heart for a period of time, because I had no choice. Well, I mean, I had a choice, but I mean, I didn't feel like going to do my sentence in the shoe because I didn't want to participate in the things that I was being forced to participate in. Do you understand where I'm coming from there? If you don't, in prison, if you're not participating with certain things, they'll beat your ass and you'll get sent to the shoe and you'll do the rest of your time in solitary confinement because you won't be allowed back on that yard. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you got to do and deal with. Not everybody does. I mean, I was a bigger guy. So, I mean, I was kind of targeted as, you know, oh, we can get him as an enforcer. And I didn't want to play that game, but unfortunately I had to. So anyways, racism is not overt. We know that. It's more of a systemic thing kind of. And it just, I agree with you. I do. But I think that there's caveats to everything, man. You know, my experience is way different than yours. Yours is different than mine and anybody else's. We all have different experiences, which kind of create how we think about things. And yeah, you got to do the work, but how many people are there like you and me out there? How many are like that are actually taking a look at, you know, is it me or is it them? You know, actually questioning what's happening. You can't even get people to get on board with the fact that we have a crisis that's happening way more important than the shit that's going on about, you know, racism and everything else. Dude, we got how many 800,000 kids going missing every year in the United States to human trafficking. That's way more important to me than all this other dumb shit. Hi.
Hi.
I got nothing for you. All right, what do you want to talk about, Lori, or do you want to end it?
I think maybe we should end it.
Yeah. Do you want to end this and not do it again at all?
I don't know. This just I'm kind of reeling from this morning, and
am I too harsh for you? Because I think I am. I think I'm a little too harsh for you. I think that and I felt that the last one that we did. You know, I mean, I could kind of feel that a little bit. I'm real, man. I'm raw. And you know what though? But when I'm wrong, I listen. I took your point plenty of times.
Yeah, I'm real and I'm raw too. I had so many things to say about that conversation, and I can't even.
Well, you don't have to say it. You don't have to say anything about it.
Why do you have to respond to anything? It's my perspective and it's your perspective. Your experience is way different than mine. You've never been to prison. You've never been jumped. You may have been beaten or you know what I mean, had some trauma. You might have had some trauma.
This is the part that I cannot participate in, that you are bringing me into this with what you're talking about for yourself. Like, I don't want any comparison here. Like, don't compare me to you. Like, I understand that you have a completely different experience, and I'm not trying to negate that. The only thing that I was talking about, which is the biggest thing, is our culture and how we have been raised and how that affects and informs the trauma that we go through our lives.
But that's continual. So that's continual, though. That's happening right now. That's in our media. That's ingrained in the system.
Of course.
So what?
Of course.
Okay, so let's stop bitching about the system, and how are we going to fix it? How are we going to fix it? We've got years of programming. How are we going to fix that? How are we going to deprogram from a system that has gotten so big and so out of control? And like, it's out of control. The government has gotten so big. How do you reel it back in? How do you change all of these systems that have been ingrained in us since the inception of the radio, ever since media has become anything? It's been there. So how do you get rid of it? How do you fix the problem?
Yeah, I believe it can be done. I think it's a really big conversation, but
what's the first step then?
The first step is education and awareness.
How are you going to educate people that don't want to be educated? There's a lot of people out there that just don't want to listen or don't have the time to listen. They've got their own preconceived notions of the way that things work. They watch mainstream media. It's a huge daunting task. You're right. But how do you fix it? How do we keep this from happening to our kids? You know what I mean? Or to my kids? Like, how do I keep that from happening? These are big questions. These are big problems. All right. And we're just two people. We're just two people with a platform. All right. Two very different people, you know, and that's why I think people like to like listening to us, because we are that different, you know, and we don't have to have the same views to respect each other. True. Even if you don't like what I have to say. Who knows? I don't know. Like I said, different experiences garner different outcomes, you know? So, and I've done a really good job in curtailing what I used to be to what I am now. Cause if you'd have met me 20 years ago, you'd have been like, fuck you. You know what I mean? And kept running. So I don't, you know, I'm an acquired taste. You either like me or you hate me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will definitely agree that we are extremely different people with very different beliefs.
So how do you fix it?
How do you fix the different belief systems that we have?
How do you fix a society that has so many different belief systems? You know what I mean? And education, you can talk about education all you want, but all you can do, education is like a trough, right? You can put the trough there, but if nobody's coming to eat and partaking of your education, then what?
Well, right. But it's also about action. You know, it's education and awareness, and then it's action and it's community support. You know, it really comes down to wanting more, wanting better, coming from a place of love and not coming from a place of competition, scarcity, and greed. And so, no, not everyone's going to be in that place. And it's going to take, there's a lot of people that are in power, and they're there for a pretty big reason, because they've created a system where they stay in power, and they are not going to go down easily.
They're not.
But it takes communities coming together and making decisions to work together for the greater good of the community and coming from a place of love and not coming from, that lower frequency of scarcity and greed.
Okay, well, the scarcity and greed, and the only way you're going to get rid of that is you got to get rid of capitalism. Or get rid of the people that are in charge of capitalism that have tainted it. Because I think that,
look, you can get your communities to come together, and when you realize what happens when you change the way where you put your money, things can happen pretty quickly. And it takes a lot of freaking people to do that, but people have to want to work together, and they want to change a system, but they have to understand that system before they even know how to change it. So if you can get the amount of people to stop putting their money into big corporations and greed places that come from greed, and putting their money into local businesses and communities, then that can shift a lot. But it takes a lot of people to have the education, the awareness, and move on with the action.
I think it only takes one group. I think it takes one group of people to put together one model that works in one place, start it in one city, and then if it works, people start seeing it, then you start adapting it at the community level, at your city level. Because I think where people don't understand is we get so ingrained in thinking that the problem is the problem can only be fixed from the top down. But that's reverse of actually how this is supposed to work. And, this goes to a lot of the things that everything that we see never really is as it is, right? So you think you're looking at something, but it's actually, you're looking at the front of it, but the real mechanism behind how it's working is in the back. So we're not seeing it for really what it is, and a lot of things in this world. So I think that if we could figure out a way, and I don't understand why we don't do this, but I mean, you have Portugal who has figured out how to win the war on drugs by decriminalizing it. And their numbers have dropped, their addiction levels, their addiction rates have dropped, their overdoses have dropped, everything that needs every milestone that needs to be ticked off there has worked. The only thing that was a downside of it was consumption went up, but the negative parts of it went down, right? Because they no longer are incarcerating people for drug offenses. And I think unless they're selling them, because selling drugs is still illegal. So that's working there. The incarceration problem, that's Germany's doing a pretty good job at what they figured out there. So like there's the areas that we have problems with, there's other examples of where it's working other places. So I don't understand why as a society and a government, we're not going to look, okay, so that's working there, and there's all pieces of things that are working. So why can't you just take a piece of this, a piece of that, and then change it all and try to implement it that way? But that would mean because you want to actually see change.
Right. We don't live in a culture that is actually cares about the people. If we did, everyone would have health care. There are plenty of things that you can see that we don't care about the health and wellness. I mean, there's so many things that the US doesn't regulate that we get just even in products that cause cancer, mm-hmm. that the US has no regulation over. Like they do not care about us.
No, there's some
way
food.
European countries care about their people. And so you can look at that. So that's where it doesn't come from the top down. It comes from our communities getting together and realizing that we are the ones that have the power to make change. We are the ones that elect the people that create the laws. And so it's not an easy process. This is not a fast process, but we're the ones that have to be the aware and the educated and the actionable people, because this has been going on always.
I know.
We've never been taken care of.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, if you have a system, this system is working great.
Systems that are getting,
they're working how they're designed to work. That's how they were designed to work, and they're working
Right.
impeccably.
Exactly. But those systems are now being uncovered. And that's the exciting part, is that those systems are being uncovered. This, like I said, we're going into the age of knowing. And so we're not, blissfully ignorant anymore. We're actually being faced with, oh, this is what's happening. This is a problem. Before we're like, just trying to live our lives and pay our bills because it just keeps racking up and racking up. But now we're being gifted with the knowledge of the corruption and the greed and, the pain that our communities are going through because of this. So yeah, it takes us doing work. We can't just sit back and not do anything about it. We actually have to come together from a place of love and want to have that change that much.
But we also have to agree to come together on something that will rally everybody together for the same cause. And that good luck with that one. I mean, and I think that everybody can kind of smell what's going on. And I've been saying this if you go back to my first podcast, I've been saying that we're in the second age of enlightenment for a long ass time, because I was seeing this shit happen way before I even started my podcast. I was looking at some of this stuff and going, damn, man, things are really starting to like be transparent, like things are happening that you like before you were like, what? That's like right out in the open now. They're getting so blatant. And I think that from everything that I've been listening to and a lot of people that I've been talking to, they think that they're scared. The powers that be are scared. They're losing control. And what's the last thing to happen before a society is taken down? They start burning books and censoring people as their last ditch effort at control. And that's what's happening right now, pretty much. Like, there's been so many people that are being deplatformed right now in the alternative community. Like, literally, YouTube channels, bam, gone. Do you know this name, Del Bigtree? He was one of the frontline doctors. Remember that thing that came out, the frontline doctors, where they tried to make everybody seem like they were crazy because they were talking about hydroxychloroquine and they were doing something. It was the one that was right in front of the White House or some other Capitol Hill or something. Do you remember that was going out for a while and then it got censored? So guys like that, Del Bigtree got his YouTube channel. They just took it. Gone. Mm-hmm. And they're censoring.
I've been censored.
Yeah,
I've been censored on Instagram and Facebook.
Censored as if like not fact checked, or like that thing that they put over where it says, "Oh, this is bullshit," or like they removed your stuff.
They denied my ads because of what they said in them.
Oh yeah, I've had that too. Like I can't do a paid ad in Facebook because they say that they think I'm some sort of what the fuck is it? Like, what is that? What is that called? They think I'm tied to politics or something. And so I'm not tied to politics. And I even went to the whole route of trying to, they send you the mail where you got to put the deal in there, to the code in there that you live here in the United States and all this other stuff. I jumped through all of their hoops, and I still can't get a paid ad to save my life. Which is fine. I mean, I don't really want to give Facebook my money anyways. So anyways, yeah, Del Bigtree's getting censored, Do you think that anything that they're talking about is like, I don't know, do you find it weird that you have some doctors that are saying one thing and you have other doctors that are saying another thing? I find that really strange. They're like, what works and what doesn't? Why can't we talk about that? Is there a cure?
I mean, I don't find it weird. Like, I've been in the healthcare industry for I don't know, 25 years, probably 30 years. I don't find anything weird, but that's why I get educated and informed. Like, I do my research. I spend my whole life dedicating it to helping people actually truly live well and be out of pain and know the truth of how to be well. I mean, big pharma. I don't know. This is funny. We said we weren't going to talk about any of this stuff, and it's been the whole show. I mean, it's just. I think the last thing that I want to say to wrap it up is, you said, what do we do? How do we change it? Like, it seems impossible. And then what you just last said is, you're like, yeah, systems are getting uncovered. The last thing is censorship. So we're doing it. That's the thing, is like, I have a huge appreciation and gratitude for the people that are doing some really amazing work and uncovering these systems, so that we do get educated and more aware and informed, so that we can start being in our community and making shifts that way. So it's happening. Like, systems are getting uncovered. It just doesn't happen immediately. You can't get a whole country full of people to do the same thing at once. Like, that's impossible.
Well, my concern is that it's nobody has any option to go to. You know what I mean? Everybody's talking about the problem, but nobody's talking about, all right, well, what are we going to shift to? Where do we go now? You know what I mean? It's just everybody bitching about the this, that, racism. Everybody's just, you know what I mean? I haven't heard anybody come with a solid plan. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like, are the progressives going to do it? Because I don't believe in the right and the left. And so, I mean, like, who's going to, I don't see anything. Like, I don't see anything. I hear a lot of talk.
But I don't think we should be looking outward for other people to do it for us. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but we
have to do it ourselves.
Yeah, but you can't just say, okay. What? You can't.
We have to start making change within ourselves, and we have to want the education and awareness, and then we have to actually take action. And, it can be something like, stop ordering off of Amazon and start buying from your local businesses. It's something like that. It's like every single decision that you make in your life has an effect. And so you start changing what you're doing with your life, and that has a ripple effect. You start changing your racist behavior. And I'm saying this for everyone, because I believe that we're all racist, because this is how we were raised. And so you start learning about anti-racism. You start looking at how can you affect the system by the actions that you take every day. And that's the ripple effect. That's how communities shift things in a bigger way. We can't just sit and wait for someone out there to tell us what to do.
No, I get that. I totally get that. I'm talking about like it's when you have so many powers that be that are and you said, and this came from you, about how
don't say it like that.
It did. It can't. You're the one that mentioned
I know, but
this.
You're like you.
You said that. You said this earlier about the what was it that you said? Something about the I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with corruption or something. The way that it didn't have anything to do with anything bad. You just mentioned a portion of something, and I was like, yeah, I agree with that. And it has to do with the money and the politics and the corporations and the money is what we don't have any of it, and not enough of it. And you have all these other entities and whatevers. So. I don't know. It's really, yeah, you know what? You're right. It really is hard to not talk about these kind of things because they're just so like right in our face right now, So.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like you have to figure out how to fill yourself up and how to come from a place of balance and come from a place of strength, because this isn't going to be fast. Like this is major change and this is a lot going on. And, personally, like I told you, I've unplugged. Like I'm not listening to the news. I'm not living in a state of fear every day. I am personally doing my own work to keep my vibration up, to keep my place of love up. I'm going to continually come from a place of love and care for the human race, which I've always done. That's why I'm in healthcare. That's why I've fought so hard for people to be well against a medical system that's all about capitalism and liability errors and greed and money and profit. So it's choices. This is like really, it just comes down to but it comes down to choices that you make every day for yourself. How do you want to be in these shifts? Like, where do you want to come from? And so everything that you choose throughout every day has an effect on that. That's how I think we change the world. It's not just our country.
What's your timeline?
My timeline?
Yeah, what's the timeline on that? Like,
for what?
For the change to happen. I mean,
I have no timeline.
Are we talking about? I mean, like, seriously, she said it's going to take a long time. Like, what's it like? What's the timeline? Because I know how hard I know how hard it is for me to change, and I'm pretty malleable.
Really? I would beg to disagree with that.
You do?
Yeah. Go ahead and listen back to our conversation and then make a decision again.
Okay. Teach their own. That's your opinion.
I mean, you've said before, you're like, look, the things that you say, you're like, I'm raw and I'm real. This is how I feel. This is my experience, you know, like.
Yeah, but to be malleable is to not be married to something. Okay. That's to be malleable. I'm not married to any ideas. If you can convince me that I'm wrong and that the way that I look at something is fucked up and is not right, I will more than happily listen and go, you know what? Yeah, you know, that makes sense. I didn't think about it that way. And I have shown that as an example. I have seen things that you have said to me and go, you know, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about it that way. So yes, I am malleable. And and we have online proof. We have live proof to show it, you know, and I actually went and talked and have been connecting with my daughter since then. So I do listen to what you say.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm not as much of a dickhead as you think I am.
I didn't say that, but I will say, if you go back and listen, you've said that about yourself. Like, I did not say that. Dude, I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm abrasive and I'm harsh. I am. And a lot of times when I come at people, it seems more harsh. Like the exterior of the delivery seems harsher than the meaning of it in my, how I mean it to come out comes out a lot differently sometimes than I'm thinking of how it should come out. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, right now we have a great opportunity to work on ourselves. That's what I'm doing every day. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm working on getting out of my lower frequency reactions that have been unconsciously conditioned in me, that I have continually done throughout my life, like especially when I'm in an emotional situation with people. And it's not easy, but it takes work. That's the thing, is that, you know, if we just keep going throughout our lives and keep reacting in the same way that we react, we're not going to grow. And right now we have a wonderful opportunity to grow, as we're having so much uncovered about ourselves, about the subconscious conditioning that we've been under from the culture, you know. And so I think that, again, the more that we actually look inside and make those changes, the more we're going to automatically shift our behaviors and our choices in our external world, which can actually make the change that we're looking for. And no, it's not going to be fast, but I have no timeline for that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think I'll be alive for it anyway. So, but you know, all I can do is try to make the best possible decisions that I can. So, you know, and try to fight for what I think is right and is going to be, that I can leave for my kid, you know. I think that the people that, when, like, the things that I do, that's in the back of my head. Not leaving a mess for her to have to inherit. You know what I mean? That's where I come from, you know, and that's the way that I have to come in it from, because I think being through everything that I've been through, I don't believe. I think it's hard. It's going to be super hard. And I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime, but I think that if we all do what you're saying and we all take and I mean to like, but if we all, look at this from a different perspective and come at it from love and understanding, or however that looks like, whatever that looks like for you, because I think it looks different for everybody. Everybody has a different perception of what love is. Then yeah, we may have a shot. I just think it's like, fuck, man, when you look at that mountain, it is so daunting and it is so huge.
What's the alternative?
I don't know what the alternative. I don't know.
That's the thing. The alternative is to keep going the way that we were, and that's not the alternative. So no matter what, we're moving forward. So you can choose to, start to make those changes for your daughter, or the alternative is to keep going the way that we were going. So I mean, that's the thing. It's going to be one or the other. So I think that, it's even just the smallest changes every day.
Caught a spider. That's one of the bad things about living in a trailer out in the middle of by the water. There's a lot of bugs out here. So anyways,
do you put show notes under your shows?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I do.
Could you do me a favor for this one?
Huh.
Could you include a resource, which would be the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo?
Yeah, anything that you want to have in there, just send me an email with all the links and anything else that you want, and I'll just copy and paste it on. That's what. Yeah,
I'd love to put that book in there, since we had such a big discussion about racism. I think that's it's a really wonderful resource that I would love people to read, just to understand a little bit more about our culture and about the racism that we have actually grown up in. So just for me, I would love to have that included.
Yeah, I'll put it in there. That's a hard. I don't want to get back into the whole thing of that, but that I think you're gonna have a hard time getting people to look at that, because what you're saying
read the book?
No. When you call everybody racist, I think it immediately puts everybody on the defensive.
Well, that's the problem. So that's why I want you to read this book, White Fragility. That's exactly what she's saying. So that is the reason that racism has stayed in such huge power, because it's called white fragility.
Well, because
that's
even
like white defensiveness.
When you say that, it makes me cringe. When you every time that comes out of your mouth and you call me racist, it makes me cringe. I'm like.
But I'm not just calling you racist. That's the thing. I have my own racism from growing up in this culture. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that takes the defenses down. I'm not pointing fingers like just you, and this isn't even this isn't overt racism. This is covert racism that we have literally been raised on. And so that's where the defenses should go down. I'm not pointing a finger at you. Like, yeah, in our discussion, I said what you were saying was racist. I did say that. But what I'm literally saying is I am saying this for myself as well. Like, and I think when you read this book and you actually can drop those defenses or that fragility around it, and you realize like, oh, this isn't me being a bad person. This isn't like the binary. If you're a good person, you're not racist. If you're a bad person, you are racist. That's the covert racism. And we can clearly see that. But the overt racism, the covert racism, which is all what this book will tell you. It's like when I read the book, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Now I understand it. Because before I read the book, I was like, no, I'm a good person. Like, I love everyone. Like, I don't see color, all of those things. That's how I lived my life. And now that I have the education and the awareness, I don't have any defenses about it, because it wasn't my fault to have that covert racism. Like, I was literally raised in it. So that's where, I'm glad you brought that up, because I really do want to share that with people, where it's like, let's come together on this and realize that this was a product of our environment. It's not a product of us being a bad person. That's not it at all. And we're not going to change it until we all let go of those defenses and see the system for what it is and take yourself, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, let's get out of that binary good versus bad person, because that's why you're feeling defensive. But when you get educated, you're like, oh, you have that aha moment, I hope, because it's really beautiful when you're like, oh my gosh, now I get it. And it's not about me, just me being this person.
I get it. Could you package it a little, the delivery a little different?
I mean, I just said that in the most gentle
No,
and loving way that I could possibly say it.
No, not that. I mean, you did great with the way you just said that. That I can listen to and I'm open to. But when you just lob everybody's racist, that shuts the conversation down, because immediately I'm just like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I the same way that you looked at me and you're like, I can't do this. I can't do this conversation. When you said that everybody's racist, that's exactly what I started thinking. I'm like, you know what? I can't. What the fuck are you just saying? What did you say to me?
Well, that's why I asked you.
I'm not racist. I'm not racist. But what I'm saying is that if you could package it up the way that you just did, versus to make it the delivery easier to consume, because when you just outright call everybody a racist, it tends, I can see how it would tend to turn people off and go, no, I'm not. You know what I mean? Because they're not woke. Like, they haven't read that book. You want them to read the book, right? You want everybody to read the book.
Well, I want everyone to get education around this, because that's the white fragility, is being defensive immediately and saying, wait, I can't, like, I'm shutting, instead of being curious, like, oh, why would you say everyone's racist? Like, I also explained it when I said it earlier as well.
No, you did. But if you're wanting people to get educated by the book that you've read and that has enlightened you to the point where you feel confident enough to call everybody a racist, you know what I mean? We haven't read that book. We don't know that. You're trying to get us to, you're trying to get us to read that book. So by packaging what you just said to me in the way that you said it, it was easier for me to consume it, because I didn't feel like you were attacking me as a racist. Does that make sense?
Okay, but what I want to point out is that that's the white fragility, your defense coming up, instead of coming from a curious place.
I haven't read the book.
Like, oh, why would? But
I haven't read the book, so I don't understand.
Saying, you can still come from a curious place if I say that statement, and you can say, why would you say that? Can you explain that to me a little bit more? Instead of being like, oh, I don't want to listen to that. Like, that's like, I'm a good person. Like, how can you call everybody a racist? You know what I mean? Like, that's the curiosity that I'm talking about. And it's like, I guess I have a little bit of a bubble here, because like I am in so many communities and groups that's only one book. There are so many books. There are so many resources. There are so many podcasts. Ibram X. Kendi is amazing. Like, he has so many podcasts out there. He just came out with a book that says How to Be Anti-Racist. He talks about his own internalized racism from a TED talk that he gave like 10 years ago as a Black man, because of our culture. So I guess I'm coming from a place where I'm surrounded by people that are literally educating themselves and becoming aware and taking actions and changing things and making donations and supporting Black businesses to start making cracks and changes in this foundation. But I just wanted to point that out. That's why she titled the book White Fragility, because like you saying that's me having to take care of you feeling defensive about it, instead of being curious about like, wow, why would she say something like that? Because that must be a really big thing if she's about to say everybody's racist, you know? And then that's the white fragility that we've had for so long of being like, no, I'm not racist. I don't want to talk about it. then we're not going to address the issue.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the time that we're in. You know what I mean? If you were talking about this maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago when the tension wasn't so high, I think it might get the reaction that you were looking for. You know, like, oh, why would you say
I'm
that?
not looking.
Or no,
curious.
It might have the curiosity effect that you're looking for. Like, why would you say that?
Well, that's interesting that you would say that, though, because right now we have, because of the tensions being so high, it seems like we would be more curious about it. Like, oh, if this is something that's creating people, putting themselves in harm's way every day out there protesting because something is so big that we cannot ignore it anymore, it seems like that would create more of a curiosity instead of a defensiveness.
Possibly. In some people, it may.
I mean, we can, yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you can't say how everybody's going to take it. Everybody's different. Just like I was receptive to, and this has a lot to do with emotional intelligence and background and how we were and how you were raised as a kid to accept information and when to shut down and when not to shut down. It's kind of like when you're a supervisor, you know what I mean, or a superintendent, and you have a workforce that's underneath you. You have to have emotional intelligence because you can't speak to everybody in the same way these days. It just doesn't work. You can't, there may be somebody that's working underneath me that, used to get yelled at as a kid. And if I come out and yell at this guy and try to get him to produce, it's going to have the opposite effect. He's going to end up saying, fuck you. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? And so you got to know how to deal with people. And you can see the perfect example of that when you called me a racist, irregardless, or not me, but when you said, everybody's racist, irregardless of whether or not I should have been saying it's curious, or well, why would you say that? Whether I come from a place of curiosity or a place of defensiveness, it's you know what I mean? And then when you changed it around, for me, it was more consumable. Oh, okay. All right. And so, however, I don't know. I can see I can't see anything. What I'm assuming from your body language, or that you like, why should I have to make it consumable for you?
I mean, honestly, like, that's what's been happening for white people this whole time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how about we care about Black people's experience more than our defensiveness when we hear something like that? That's what I'm saying. It's like, this is literally the white fragility that she's talking about in the book. And so I think I deliver things pretty gently and coming from a loving place because that's my nature. And I spent a lot of time educating myself about this before I came out and really started talking about it in a really comfortable way, because I can own my own racism at this point, and I can correlate it to our culture and what I was raised with. And so again, I understand what you're saying, and that's the white defensiveness. That's that, like, I'm a good person. It's like the binary good versus bad. You hear something like that and you're like, no, I'm not a bad person. I'm not a racist. I'm not the KKK person out there, doing overt, racist acts. So the only reason my body language is not the biggest reason my body language is like that is because this is like where, especially Black people are exhausted. They're exhausted by white people's reaction to this. Like, it's been going on for so long, for as long as this country has been here. And so I just really want to point that out, that it's like, I hope that we all become curious because of what, things that are absolutely coming to light. And I don't know. That's just, and this is about me. Like, I do educate myself as much as I possibly can because I am curious and I want to know what's going on and I want to understand it more. And so, that is why I will talk about that. But I absolutely will include myself as well, because it's all of us. That's why I said everyone,
Well, I'll take a look at, I'll do this. All right. I will examine my my stance on caution and how it relates to what's the word I'm looking for? Subconscious racism.
Sure.
And examine
I
that.
hope you read the. I hope you read the book too.
Is there? Can you get it on listening?
Of course,
because
you can get almost any book on audiobook.
Yeah, because if you ask me to read a book, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah. Well, I hope you listen to the book then.
I won't read a book. I don't read. I'll listen to anything though.
Cool. I think we should wrap up at this point. We're way over an hour.
Yeah.
Not way over. We're a little over an hour.
Yeah, we're 112.
Congratulations on keeping me on, because I did not think that was going to happen.
Well, I mean, I wasn't threatening you. I didn't say
you were threatening me. What? Why are you even bringing that in?
Well, I mean, I wasn't like trying to get you to go off. That's the whole thing.
No, I know. This wasn't about you at all. I'm saying congratulations, because you were able to change the energy enough that you kept me on. So
okay.
That felt like a defensive reaction again.
Yep, it was. You're right. It was a defensive reaction. I apologize that I took that wrong. And thank you for acknowledging my ability to transition and pivot.
You did.
I did.
Because it's now an hour and 15. So
exactly.
Boom.
And probably about halfway through this, people were probably thinking, God damn, these two are going to fucking go at it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go have a beer.
What time is it? Well, it's 12 somewhere.
Yeah, just kidding. I'm just kidding, everyone. I'm not going to do that. I'll probably go for a run, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate the fact that you did stay on. And, hopefully we can keep this going, because I think these kind of conversations are important. It's important for us to be an example of what it's like to disagree, or maybe see something in yourself that somebody else sees and take a look at it,
I agree.
And a lot of the reasons why I like coming on and doing these things with you, irregardless if how I might push you, is that you do get me to see things sometimes in a way where I wouldn't like you were able to, and I appreciate you transitioning from and making it consumable for me to understand where you were coming from, because when you were saying it in one way, I wasn't understanding where you were coming from. All right. And
that's
so
a wonderful lesson for people right now.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I will take a look at, how I look at being cautious versus being prejudiced, because I think it correlates. It probably does.
Yeah.
Not overtly racist, but what is it? Covertly?
Covertly.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, look, man, we're at a point right now where everything is worth investigating and at least taking a look at, because nothing else is working. Nothing else seems to be working. I think
that's working. I think that is what's working, is the more people go inside and start making really deep shifts, like get rid of those low frequency reactions that's been habitual, that have been created by fear and scarcity and competition culture. Mm-hmm. So, I guess that's what I want to leave everyone with is, really start finding the things that you can trauma work, therapy, like my therapy is absolutely the best thing I've ever done throughout this time. So whatever it is for you, like maybe try to find some things that help you explore your trauma and explore those automatic reactions and start to open up to new ways of being, because that's really where we're headed. I hope, that's where I'm headed, at least.
Yeah, one can only hope. Are you still planning on hitting the road?
Oh yeah, I got my van this week. I'm looking at her right now.
Yeah. What's the where are you going? Well, where's that going to take you? Because you're doing exactly what I would love to be doing, by the way, is just like saying screw it all and just go and talk to people everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I've always wanted to not believe the media and everything that they're trying to tell us about our own country, and just go and see for yourself. Is it like this here? No, it's not. You know, a lot of times you'll probably find that it's not as bad as the media is trying to make it out to be. But it would also make a really, really, really good podcast. You know what I mean? Because you're out there talking to all kinds of different people, and you don't have anybody, like, all you can just focus on is your mission and what you're trying to put out there to everybody.
Yeah. It'll be all about my business. But really where I'm going is to be in the land. Like, I literally want to understand the history of this land, and I want to feel this land. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of work on myself. And to me, being in the land is very spiritual, and it really shifts the way that I function in life, and it drops me even deeper into my humanity. And that's what I want. I want out of the fear and scarcity culture, and I want to be in my receiving space and a space of love. And that's how I'm going to continue to put this business out. And I'm just really I'm actually, like, it's kind of crazy, and we can't really get into it because I do have to go, but I'm actually going to do a 40-day rebirth, which means that I'm going to take 1 minute to explain this. So I teach childbirth classes, and I can't even get into what happens in childbirth and how that creates the culture, the anger and the aggression and the fear in our culture that we have today. And that's why I teach childbirth classes, to really change that at the root. But I always encourage parents to keep babies at home for 40 days and actually with really minimal contact with anyone else. That's a really healthy way that many cultures bring their babies into the world. And those babies come in with more empathy, with more reasoning. They come from a place of love. A lot of babies are coming in fear and pain and trauma and stress, because that's how we have their mothers birthing these babies. So it's 40 days of basically calibrating the central nervous system of babies and increasing their immunity by only being in contact with their parents, because that's how we get immunity. And because I have such a deep abandonment wound from being abandoned as a baby and didn't have any nurturing for 3 weeks, I have decided that I'm going to do a 40-day rebirth, which means I'm completely disconnecting for 40 days and going to be out in the land and recalibrate my own central nervous system and hopefully come from a place of empathy, reasoning, and love that I didn't get because I was so scared as a baby, having no one to nurture me. And that, has created a lot of my abandonment issues that I've went through in relationships through my whole life. So I'm basically, as an adult, going to do the thing that I wanted as a baby, and I'm going to change that nervous system function for myself. And I can't wait. I can't wait to be unplugged for 40 days. I'm so excited. And I think it's just a really great experiment that I'm probably going to write a book about, to let people know like what that's like, because we have such a plugged in culture. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be a really amazing journey, no matter what, that I'm going to share with people.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. I always thought it was really interesting when I had my daughter, and as soon as she would get onto my, like as soon as her skin would touch
skin
my
skin.
Yeah, whenever that would happen, like it was crazy how the milk just start, like the nipple, it would start coming out just from that. So it's almost like, it was weird. It was almost like there's a like some sort of a mechanism that when that happens, your enzymes and all the like hormones mm-hmm. and everything start kicking in. Yeah. Like they're communicating because they're just
exactly. Because skin to skin is our best medicine, and we don't utilize it at all. And so that's the education and awareness. That's why I'm writing a childbirth book, so people can really understand that we were made with medicine. We were made to create, nurture, and sustain really healthy babies who become healthy adults. And our birthing culture has completely annihilated that. for the most part. I won't say 100% because we still there's a very, very small percentage of people that are actually giving birth in that way. But it's so big, it's so huge, and I've been doing this for over a decade, which is why I'm writing a book about it. But yes, absolutely, you saw the medicine that Skin to Skin does and the process that it actually has in our bodies, and she was creating immunity while she was in your skin, while she was touching your skin with her skin.
Oh, because of the biome that's on our because our skin is the biggest organ that we have, right?
Yeah, it's your microbiome.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, so yeah, it was great. If you make it down this way, hit me up. Stop by and do a live one.
An in-person throwdown.
Well, dude, I doubt we will get like that again.
I'm joking. I'm a jokester too. I do like to laugh. I have a laughter is medicine series on my podcast, you know.
Yeah. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was just you had the like deep conversations about like traumas and stuff. I thought it was like, cause I don't know, I thought yours was just more like that.
No, it's all about what I consider health and wellness, and laughter is actually our best medicine. And so I interview comedians and I put live comedic bits in the episode. It's really awesome. Like you get to hear live comedy while you're hearing an interview with them as well. Yeah.
You know what kind of sucks though is what I really wanted to talk about and how we got hijacked into something else was, how as podcasters, how it's so different. It's hard when you're creating a show or when you have your own show and you're doing everything that you and I are doing. It's really difficult to, because we're so like, I don't know. Your show takes quite a bit of time. You do your show way more in depth than I do mine, and so I can imagine that it takes you way more time. But even like what we were talking about in the beginning. It's hard for us as podcasters to support other podcasters because we're so, aside from just listening to other people's shows, like we're so ingrained in our own, like what we're trying to do that I find the little bit of time that I have, left over doesn't leave a lot of time for me to support other shows and listen to other people's content because I'm listening to content that, you know what I mean? That I'm bringing information to listeners.
Yeah.
So it's like, God damn, man. And like when I talk about like supporting, why isn't anybody supporting me? You know what I mean? Well, are you supporting anybody else?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, fuck.
Perfect. Man. Yeah. But it's a great way to look at it. That's what I'm saying. Like really turning that around and being like, wait, I have to do that with my friendships. If I'm like, why isn't anybody getting a hold of me to do anything? I'm like, am I getting a hold of them? And I'm just sitting around waiting for them to get a hold of me. So I love that. That's the curiosity. I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a great place to end. And FYI, if you want to listen to my podcast, it's The Raw and Wild Hearts.
Yeah, it is The Raw and Wild Hearts. And if you want to continue listening to my podcast, it's Nowhere to Go But Up. And you'll find all that information that Lori has, including the books, and throw any podcasts or any of that stuff that you want people to engage in or take a look at, because you mentioned more than one. Throw them all in there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I gotta go.
All right. Bye.
Bye.